Good.
All right, I think we're ready to go. Good evening. I'd like to welcome everyone to this meeting of JBCJan Borough Council, January 24th, 2018. I have been trying to remember to mention that we are video recording these proceedings, and so there's a camera that's pointed, I believe, in our direction, but I think it captures most of the room, just so people are aware that this is being video recorded, although it's not live. All right, so Chief, the mayor is driving here from New York and says she will be late. But in her absence, would you lead us in the pledge?
Be honored to, Madam President.
Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call?
Madam President, normally it would be my pleasure. I have not much of a voice, and I'll start coughing. So I've asked the Finance Director where to do it.
Vice President Bunker. Here. Councilor McCaffrey.
Here.
Councilor Connors. Here. Councilor Farrell.
Here.
Councilor Ballard. Here. President Panko.
Here.
Councilor Lugar.
Here.
Councilor Golden. Councilor Milan.
Here.
Councilor Whitney.
Here.
Councilor Sophia.
Here.
Madam President, you have a quorum.
Great. Thank you very much. I'd like to hear a motion for the approval of the minutes for December 11th and our reorganization meeting on January 2nd.
Second.
Are there any additions, changes, or questions to the minutes? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, thank you. And Vice President Bunker, payrolls and invoices.
Madam President, I move that we approve payrolls dated December 21st, January 4th, and January 18th in the amount of $248,251.50, and invoices totaling $343,867.08.
Second. All right, are there any questions or comments? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. On our agenda, we now have time for public comment. Is there anyone who would like to speak, ask a question, or make a comment? Okay. We do have one presentation this evening, and we will have limited time for questions if there are questions during that time that people could ask. So we're going to launch right into that presentation from Riley Ripper Holland and I think I pronounce this. Greco, thank you.
You're welcome. Good evening, everyone. My name is Allison Fritches. I think we've been able to present this to most of you. So if at any time you wanted to jump ahead, let me know because we've been here since November. I represent PB Realty, his principal, Scott Hummel. He's the equitable owner of 459 to 471 Old York Road. We're proposing a Taco Bell at that location. Currently, there's a funeral home that's been vacant for a very long time. There's been no tax base from that property, so we're hoping to put that property back on the tax rolls, give you some good public improvements, which would include a traffic light where that pedestrian sign is right now, new stormwater management system on that property, and also streetscape all along on Old York Road. So as well as the funeral home property, Scott's company is also purchasing half of the twin that is next to, part of the twin that is next to the funeral home. So that will also get an upgrade, have improvements along that side of the road as well. So with that, why don't we jump right into the site plan. So Joe T. Pasquale is here as a representative from Taco Bell. Okay. So Joe, do you want to come up and go through the actual plan for the site?
Sure. We have our little
fancy pointer, so it'll
Right.
make it easy. Okay, so 611, right here, Cherry Street, Johnson Street. The existing building sits somewhere in this vicinity, a couple of garages in the back corner. And this parcel here is the twin. That's the half of the twin. What you're seeing here is proposed 2,753 square foot Taco Bell, fast food QSR, quick service restaurant, with a patio, and you'll see elevations after this, with outside seating and parking, dumpster back here, and then this is the drive-through lane. It's got a double stack for the drive-through to get some additional queue, and a little bypass lane here, or a escape lane, if you will. The intent here is to get everyone to what we are proposing is a full signal at this location right now, which is currently, the mast arms are there, you have signalization, but it's only active when people are making this crossing from the church or the assisted living. So that light is usually green. The intent here is to make that a full signal so that you can get gaps in the traffic and slow traffic down, and then everyone would be able to get in and out of this curb cut and make full movements, lefts in, lefts out, safely. The intent here would be to move the driveway across the street so that it meets up, and then we would realign some of this, get their spaces back where they were, and make sure that these are across from each other and create a new walkway across from the church. As you can see, then we have a curb cut that goes out to Johnson. Currently, you have this curb cut exists, curb cut in the back exists, and then there's another one right here that we are closing, which is PennDOT would require that normally anyway because of the proximity to the Cherry Street curb cut and the street. So that would always, be recommended to be closed anyway. And the intent here again is to push everybody to the signal so that you get a safer movement there. We also provided spaces back here for the apartments that now currently exist above the retail that is in the bottom of the twin. So you have some parking right here for them designated, and then the rest of this obviously will be cross-access for those folks as well. So we'll have cross-access for the people that operate in here. They'll be able to move through the parking lot.
So can you talk about the drive-through a little bit and why it's necessary to have 2 lanes for the drive-through?
The second lane basically gives us additional stack. So you've got 1, 2, 3, and then 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So it gives you additional stack so that cars are not sitting in the parking lot, and you can safely stack those cars in the drive-through lane. We probably do about 65% of our business through the drive-through.
And how is the traffic going to move in and out of that site?
So they're going to hopefully come in and out of this curb cut on 611, and they're going to come in and loop around. If they're going to the drive-through and do this, and probably go back out here. I mean, they can go back out here and make their way down Johnson. But again, the intent here is to create enough gaps and a safe enough movement here so that people can then have the alternative to go anywhere they want out of this intersection. Obviously, if anybody comes in and parks in the parking lot, they can, again, it's a full double stack of parking with a wide enough aisle so they can back in and out, and then they can make their decision on which way they're going if they're not going through the drive-through.
Do you see the Taco Bells creating traffic?
No, typically, QSRs and convenience stores and places like that are picking up mostly, traffic that's on the roads already. And again, this being in a more urban environment, we also would expect to be picking up some walking traffic from local businesses as well. So we typically are picking that up. And of course, part of this is we'll have a full traffic study by, traffic company and engineers, and we have to get PennDOT permits for all of this. So it'll be subject to those requirements.
Talk about the landscaping a little bit, specifically the buffer along Johnson Street.
So we were able to create a green space basically around the whole perimeter here as it meets 611, Cherry, and Johnson. We intend to put some, some arborvitae or something in here so that we could screen the couple of residents that are here that would be looking directly at the back of the site, so that we could screen that. We do have a cross section that we'll show you that shows you that because of the way the site grades right now, it grades from Johnson down pretty substantially to 611. So this is just a non-colored version of the same exact plan you were just looking at. And here, that's the back of the buildings. This is to scale. That's the back of the houses. And you can see here's Johnson Street right here. And then that would be the screening. And you can see the distance from here down to 611 down here. It drops pretty significantly.
So based on the elevation with the Johnson Street residents and Taco Bell, what kind of effect do you think, or do you see it having on those residents on Johnson?
It will certainly not be any worse than it is today. They're looking at the back of the Hellway building currently, and some garages. It'll be much nicer, much newer, and we will screen this as heavily as we possibly can. We do have additional screening here along Cherry Street. Obviously, that's looking at the side of a Dunkin' Donuts, so I don't know that it's as big a deal, but we can green that up pretty significantly there as well. Because of the grades, this is all a retaining wall right here, all the way along there.
All right, let's talk about the exterior of the building a little bit. I don't want to do that. Your architect went out to the buildings along Johnson, and they've, we've met with Borough Council, and they've expressed some concerns about the exterior of the building matching with Long Old York Road. So can you tell what your team did in relation to their concerns?
So this board is showing you pictures of some buildings in proximity to the site. And obviously there's 611. Our building is picking up, this tower is picking up the stone, which is meant to mirror the side stone that is on the assisted living and the church. That's what those stones are meant to mimic. This panel is a hardy panel. It's a cementitious siding panel. Then you can see it's it's got some texture to it. You can see that the shutters on this building are looking like that, and the building itself has stone, and then it has this material is really the same kind of material. It's a hardy panel type material on that building across the street. We are currently showing the stone going along the water line, and then this is currently shown as stucco. Doesn't have to be. We do it in brick. We can do it in stucco. We can do it in stone. We're trying to address some of the comments that were made. We have some flexibility in what those materials are, but the intent again was to pick up some of the material types and textures that are currently on some of the buildings. Obviously, the Dunkin', that's more of a stucco finish.
So your architect would sit down with Borough Council if zoning was approved and
Correct.
see what they were interested in as far as exterior.
Yeah, and there's a larger version of those that you can see. It's a little harder to read those. If you want to go to that other.
So what is on the bottom, that colorful area on, right there, what's that represent?
That's a mural. Taco Bell has a series of murals that they allow you to use. They vary. We can pick one of their murals, but they also now have a system where they will allow local artists to come in and create a mural. At one time, they were doing, welcome to Jenkintown or something of that nature, painted on the stucco. But because of the materials, being more of the brick and things like that, they've come up with these panels. But we can certainly do something, with local flavor to add to that.
This is one of the renderings of a recent building.
Yes, this is the patio, right? It's just an open patio. It's obviously up in this part of the world. It's seasonal, right? People aren't going to be sitting out there when it was like it was a couple of weeks ago. But it gives you a nice feature. Looks nice. It gives the building a nicer presentation. So this building is intending to look just like this. So this is the front of the building that would face 611. This is the side that would face interior to the interior parking lot.
Pull up a couple more images of buildings that you've done.
Yeah, this is a night shot of one we just opened in Sicklerville, New Jersey. That's just another view. So again, that's the view you would see from 611. This right now is in the prototype. This is a rusted metal panel. That is the part of the prototype. That's where we're intending instead to make it the stone so that it's, pulls out some of the features. And that's the drive-through side.
So Joe, let's talk a little bit about the public improvements you were talking about regarding the traffic signal and the stormwater management and things of that nature. You've had conversations with PennDOT, is that right?
Correct.
About the reality of getting that signal?
Yes, and
what has the response been?
their opinion, and then this was our consultant TPD, who was one of two of the larger consultants in this market that deal with PennDOT every day. They talked to PennDOT, and they are at least preliminarily supportive of making that signal a full signal. One of the caveats, of course, was that we match the driveway across the street and make sure that they are across from each other. So that's why you saw that sketch. And we have no problem with doing that. Obviously, we would need permission from those owners to do that, but we have no problem doing that.
And that's on Taco Bell sign, correct?
Correct. And then the other part of that was we talked about the streetscape and extending the streetscape, the paving and the lights that currently occur on the other side of Cherry Street and extending that across our frontage, and we've agreed to do that as well.
Which is also something we can discuss with council and what they would like to see there.
Correct.
And to be clear, Taco Bell is not coming without the traffic signal.
No, we need the traffic signal because, again, the intention is to make it safe and convenient for people to pull in and out of there. If they can't get in that signal and people are racing down 611, then we've defeated the purpose. We want to be on a corner. We want to have left ins and left out and full access because it's a convenience operation.
And that would be you're fine with it being conditional approval, correct?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Now let's talk about the employees and hours of Taco Bell. How many employees do you typically see at this location?
On a shift, it's probably 5 or 6. Total employment, probably 35 or so people, some part, some full.
In your experience, where do those workers come from? Where do they live?
Normally, local people, a lot of them are younger people. They're getting dropped off. They're coming by bus. They're, a lot of them are younger kids.
And so you expect them to come from the borough?
Correct.
Okay. And as you showed before, we've made special parking accommodations for employees?
We've added, if you want to go back to that site plan, I'll show you that. Basically, we've reserved right here in front of the dumpster, because obviously someone's going to look at this and go, well, wait a second, you're parking in front of your dumpster. Those are designated as employee spaces, those 3 spaces. Obviously, we're not picking up the trash unless we control that, so we know when they're coming, and we can, if there's somebody actually there, we would move them, but typically that wouldn't be the case.
What are the loading hours?
The loading hours are after hours, typically like 3 in the morning. But we don't use reefer trucks or anything like that, refrigerated trucks. Truck comes in, it'll lay right here in the parking lot when we're closed, and they'll load through a door right here. They have the key to the door, they load and they leave.
What are Taco Bell's hours?
Our normal hours inside the store are 7 to 11. Drive-through, we typically like to keep open until 2 a.m.
Nobody should be hanging outside of Taco Bell past 11.
No, again, at 11, the inside of the store is closed, completely closed, and you can only access through the drive-through.
As far as the tax base goes, what's been your experience? And this property has been assessed at $390,000 since '98. How much money do you expect to put into this property?
We will spend $2 million, $1.5 million to $2 million between building and site improvements. We're going to obviously do some significant landscaping, all of this hardscape. We're going to have to do underground stormwater management, which again, currently today doesn't exist. Everything sheet flows into 611, so nothing is being handled on site, and the site is currently almost 100% impervious now. We're going to lower that impervious cover a little bit and also capture all of that flow underground. And, obviously we're going to meet whatever requirements there are from the municipality and the state and all those folks. But the rules and regs now are pretty stringent on what you can release out of your site and what are quality as well as quantity. So all of that will get handled now, whereas today it doesn't exist.
So just for that funeral home property, it's $20,000 in taxes. How much, considering we know the purchase price?
If it's currently assessed at the number you showed me, which was 390, I can't believe that thing would be assessed at 390. It'll be at least double that, probably triple, I would imagine.
And that's including the BPT as well and the EIT,
Yeah.
all the transfer tax
Yeah.
into the borough. Okay. So in addition to the Taco Bell property, Scott, I want to ask you about the twin you plan on developing next door.
Yes, so our intentions are to improve the rear of the, I'll say, existing yard, if you would. Tear that up completely, put in new landscaping, keep it manicured. That's what it currently looks like. There's no parking there. As Joe had talked before, we're going to have some spots in the back. We'll then level it off, do some nice landscaping, have some steps to go down because of the elevation difference, and have access from the rear. We'll probably replace all of the windows and cosmetically dress up the exterior without changing the architectural design whatsoever. We will be taking the storefront that currently exists and taking that off and putting a brand new storefront on, which will actually wrap around the side facing the Taco Bell, to allow for a more friendly and pedestrian kind of environment and attract what we hope to be a quality tenant in there by fixing up that storefront. We'll take the apartments that are upstairs, which are 3, and we will renovate them and add some amenities like air conditioning and so forth, without increasing size or anything like that. So in itself, we'll be cosmetically improving the exterior drastically, and the interior itself, all to just kind of attract a quality retail tenant, a long-lasting, hopefully, retail tenant, along with extending the streetscaping up to the edge of our twin, where our twin meets the neighboring twin.
Basically, at the back, right around where that
Yep.
one is there.
So we will try to, again, with what the borough, I think's long-term plan is to keep adding or creating more of a pedestrian-friendly atmosphere. And we'll add to that with the landscaping, the streetscaping, and opening up the front retail window and so forth. And then again with the Taco Bell and the outdoor seating, we just think we'll all add to a little bit more of a pedestrian-friendly area. Right now, and I'm in Jenkintown, I'm actually at the corner of Hillside and Old York Road. It's just not a pleasant block to walk past. There's really nothing there. So that's our intention with the twin.
And Jeff Lustig, who's sitting by you, he's also involved with the project.
Yeah, Jeff's my partner. Nobody better in Jenkintown these days to redo storefronts and redo apartments. He's brought a lot of businesses to the area. When we came up with this idea, I immediately called Jeff. Going way back, I guess, to the Ventresca brothers. After they left, nothing's really happened until Jeff came along, and we just think he's an excellent partner. He understands the neighborhood. He understands what attracts retail tenants. All of his places are full, both downstairs and upstairs. So together, I think we'll do a good job with this.
Well, that's all we have. As council is aware, our next step would be to go to the zoning hearing board. We do need relief for the drive-through. So if the council has any questions, we would ask, hopefully, council to support our application from the zoning hearing board for that relief.
Before we get away from the presentation, I was wondering if you would address 2 more questions.
Sure.
One is, could you talk specifically about pedestrian accommodations for people walking on York Road? And, well, I'll let you go ahead with that and then I'll do the second question.
One just go back to the site plan, I guess. So obviously the distance from the curb to the property line is fixed, right? So that sidewalk and that area is a fixed area. This black, heavy black line is our property line. We have put a green space in here in front of our return lane. So, somebody's going to say, well, is it pedestrian friendly if you've got a car coming across the front of this? Well, you've got a retaining wall here, all the green in here, so these people are not going to feel like they're up against traffic, which, by the way, they're up against traffic on the other side, on 611 anyway, so I can't fix that. But, so this sidewalk all the way up to here, which is the other side of the twin, all of that will be repaired and replaced, and to match whatever the borough spec is with the brick and whatever, and the lighting that goes in that area will all be replaced. You can see here we've shown a walkway across from the sidewalk in the right of way across. Okay, this will be signed. It'll be stop bars here. It'll be a stop sign so people can come here and go in and out of the store. And then that sidewalk comes all the way across and goes all the way to Johnson Street. So anyone walking back in Johnson Street, or these folks back here, they can come and enter the site like this and come across to get into the site.
So pedestrians would, though, have to cross the curb cut on York Road?
Yes. Yes, yeah, that absolutely would. Well, again, if they're coming from up here, they're going to have to come across that curb cut. Again, the fact that this will be signalized and people will, you'll have signalization to know, these people are stopped and they're not going to turn, or if they're going to turn, you're going to know they're turning. So all of that can be handled with signalization.
And then my second question as part of your presentation is, could you address several questions people have asked us why you are not proposing to rehabilitate the existing historic building?
Well, rehabbing buildings, and I can talk to this gentleman next to me, is very difficult to do in and of itself. But in order to create my use and fit my use into a building like that is almost impossible. By the time you're done with the mechanicals and all of the things that have to go into, if it was an apartment, it'd be different. But if it's going to be a retail space like ours, any kind of restaurant space, it's very difficult and expensive to do. And it does not afford you, the way it's situated on the site does not afford you proper access and movement around the site to create a safe. This allows us to do the best we can to give you the pedestrian walkway, to give you parking that works. If we're trying to squeeze our use into a box and also on the site try and make it work, it becomes very difficult to do. It physically doesn't really work very well. This gives us the best shot to give you something that you will like and something that we can operate efficiently and, be successful at.
Thank you. Okay, so thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah, so now, are there other questions people have?
Are those as far as the design, is it really, that's the only style that we're sticking with? Like we can't, there's no other design, like is that the main design option? We're just looking at different materials on the outside? Do we have any flexibility there as far as?
Again, it's very difficult. You can't it's very hard to put like A-frame roofs and those sorts of things on uses like this, because again, you've got ventilation, you've got HVAC that all sits up there, and that just is.
It's hidden behind the power.
Yeah, you won't see them because the parapets are up. But as far as if you're thinking, make it look more like the twin or something like that with A-frames and things like that, it's very difficult to accomplish. And again, we are prototype driven, right? We want people to drive by and say that's our store.
I'm just thinking of other places, like if you're driving through Chestnut Hill. I grew up in Connecticut, where fast food places don't look like that. They have cedar shakes,
Yeah.
floorboards. And so I would love to see something like that. I don't know how possible that is, but I think that looks so much more attractive and fits our town so much more than
Well,
that style, just like a box.
That's kind of why we showed you the pictures of the different buildings. The reality is, and I'm not an architect, I'm an engineer, I'll speak to it a little bit, and I can have my architect have these conversations with people in the borough. But at the end of the day, if you look at the architecture of the different uses all along 611 and in any town in this market, the bank's got the flat roof and the columns. The church has the pitched roof and the steeple, and the residentials look one way, the commercials look a little bit different, and there's a lot of different ways you can skin that cat. It's very difficult to say, okay, I'm going to fit into a period, this period, right? Because it morphs and it moves and it changes over years. So, I know that, people don't like the words prototype and things like that, but that's really the issue. If you try and match all those things, it's very difficult to pick a flavor, if you will.
I have two questions. The first question is, I'm curious as to how important keeping the drive-thru open until 2 is to you.
We do a lot of our business at night because late night is kind of the thing. I don't do it, but the younger people do.
Say that louder so the chief can hear.
The discussion we had about that, by the way, and Scott brought this up, is obviously we are going to be a part of this community. If we have somebody hanging out there and causing disruptions at 2 a.m., that's a problem. We would deal with that. We are not a small company. We are a franchise. We run 110 stores in 4 states. So this is not one guy, one off. We're a large company, and we do this in a lot of places. And we have systems in place, and we don't have any issues that I'm aware of anywhere like that. Could we talk about that? Sure. Again, our intention is to really do well and make a lot of money and be here for a long time and pay you folks a lot of taxes. We'd like to do that and give ourselves the best shot to do that, which is to be consistent in what we offer everybody else. So
what we proposed, if this is something, an agreement, we're happy to enter into agreement with the borough that we start at 2, and if there's any issues, we come back to the table and we can possibly address, 1 or something like that. But if possible, we'd like to start at 2 and be able to, if something happens, because we don't anticipate there being a problem. If there is a problem, like Joe said, it'll be taken care of. If it's not taken care of, we're happy to come back to the table and then address council's concerns.
we're not serving alcohol. We're not, somebody's going to run through the drive-thru, get their munchies, and go.
I think it's also important to note that the borough controls the ordinance and has the ability to police Taco Bell. If at 2 in the morning they're doing things that they shouldn't, or their customers are doing things that they shouldn't, the borough will cite them, and they're going to have to do whatever it takes to comply with the borough's ordinance, just like any other business does at any time.
I recognize that. I'm just trying to clarify what your needs are and trying to figure out that we understand where you stand on that particular issue. The other thing that I think that as a community we're trying to be more and more aware of and conscious of is climate change. So I know I'm particularly interested in that. So I don't know if you are prepared to answer a question right now about what Taco Bell is doing in establishing new franchises in terms of being mindful of environmental impact. I know you talked a little bit about trying to be mindful of impervious change, but is there anything else as a larger company that you guys are doing as you set up shop to pay attention to that? And if you can't think of it right now, then that's
I don't know the answer to that, honestly, but I could clearly, talk to corporate and figure out what that might entail. Yeah.
Thank you.
And I have one question. So I think, there are places in Jenkintown for high schoolers to go and get something reasonably priced to eat. So this would be a great opportunity. I see a lot of the kids coming from the Johnson Street, coming from the Borough, coming from this side of Old York Road. The thing that concerns me is the traffic coming out of Taco Bell down Johnson. As you know, that street's very thin, it's not very wide. Would you encourage traffic to leave through the Old York Road exit? Is there a way to do that rather than having it so?
It really becomes a convenience thing, and that's really the whole point of the signal and the signalization is options, an opportunity to safely make a movement and get out. If going out in the back of Johnson is harder, or there's, it's not as big a road, or, because when you go out Johnson, because I just did this, right? You go out Johnson, you've got to go down here, and then you can't make you can only go one way. Right at the end, you've got to go back around. So if you're a borough resident, you obviously know where you're going, and you know which streets are one way and which ones aren't. And, I would think you're going to circulate the cleanest way in here that you can, and that's usually what happens.
Right, so I'm more concerned about the kids coming into the Taco Bell. I could potentially see people coming out down Johnson and then back through the Dunkin' Donuts, not the Dunkin' Donuts, the IHOP.
I think Cherry Street, the Dunkin' Donuts and Cherry Street is just more of a danger zone than anywhere in the borough. I mean, the sidewalk runs behind an entire parking lot, so. I think what Joe's trying to say is he's right. If people are lazy, they're going to make that left to go to Johnson, but if you live in the borough, you're going to cut through that parking lot again.
Right, you're going to do whatever's easiest, then you're going to make your own little shortcut. And, we can't do a whole lot about that. Like I said, if we make it a little safer and a little easier to go out the other way, that's what we want to encourage. But
Are there other questions? Yes.
When my son was in high school, he and his friends used to walk down to the Wawa and get a hoagie or something. And now the Wawa's moved, so I can see this replacing that, in the evening life of our youth. A follow-up question is, would pedestrians be able to use the drive-through after hours?
No. That is a good question.
Although they'll try.
I tried once at a Burger King in Seattle. They wouldn't let me do that.
Yeah, that's a good question.
First time I heard that question.
That's a great question, because at one of our Burger Kings, because we operate a few Burger Kings in Gibbstown, New Jersey, a gentleman was going through the drive-through in one of those scooters. He lives across the street. He drove his scooter around, and I was mystified.
Did he get food?
Excuse me?
Did he get food?
Yeah, he did it. He went around. Yeah, but no, I don't. They wouldn't serve, because obviously you got to get to the menu board. You got to order. That triggers the whole.
So longboard doesn't count.
Yeah.
Longboard doesn't count. Councilor Conlon.
Yeah, I have a question in regards to the ventilation and where that will be in proximity. Because I ask that because there's a residential area so close to the Taco Bell.
Well, the distance in that cross section that we were looking at, I think the distance from the back of the houses that are here, right? So this is a commercial enterprise right here on the corner, but there are houses here. The distance from the back of the houses to the back of my building is 156 feet or something like that.
Yeah, the house that has the extension built on is 146, and the house next door without that extension is 158. And so it's feet from rear door to rear wall of Taco Bell.
And as we discussed, it's grading off towards 611. And honestly, we don't, the whole site is grading off towards 611 down. And then we don't, you're not getting the smells that you're getting out of like a Burger King.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, you're not getting that here, because we're not frying burgers.
A hypothetical question, and I ask because it's something I can imagine myself doing. Sometimes if you're on Old York Road, you're trying to get to, say, Johnson or that area, that can be challenging or convoluted sometimes. So I'm wondering if having the light and the parking lot passageway there would be so convenient that people would begin using it as for access to not just Taco Bell, but to Johnson.
To cut.
Yeah.
That's a ticket.
Yeah, I mean, potentially, sure. As these guys said, this parallel parking along Cherry with the parking here that's 90 degrees, that's going to block up. Again, you would hope that if this signal is now a true signal, you've got people stacked up. It gives them time and gaps. When you're talking to PennDOT, you're talking about gaps at the light. So the gaps give you opportunity and time to make the other movements. That's the whole point of the light. So by doing that, you're going to slow down the traffic coming down 611, and then B, you're also going to produce the gaps. So if they're stopped here, they'll probably stop here, so they'll allow people from Cherry Street to get in and out. Like you would expect.
Any other questions? Council? Are there any questions from our citizens that Yes, sir. Would you stand and state your name and your address?
My name is Tim Dibble. I live at 260 Mather Road in Jenkintown. Wanted to know if Taco Bell has any programs to make their buildings LEED certified.
To my knowledge, we do not go for LEED certification. It's a little difficult with 2,700 square feet. There's not a ton of you can do. It is a wood building. It's wood frame. The materials are, standard materials. Again, there's not a ton of opportunity in a small building like that to do those things, but again, I can ask corporate if they have any kind of programs that they're, chasing any of that. To my knowledge, we don't.
And this goes to the councilwoman's question about environmental.
Right.
Because I don't know if you know what LEED certification is, but.
We do, thank you.
Okay. I have a lot of other questions, but are you going to vote on it tonight?
It's not on, I'm going to say no, we're not going to vote on it tonight.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
There's also a land development process that the business would have to go through before it would get final approval. But this is their, I think, taking our temperature to see whether they should put the money and effort into getting PennDOT to get a light and things like that.
Is it on, I'm sorry, but I can't remember, and I have an older copy of the, it's not, there's no resolution on our order of business.
Well, it wouldn't be a resolution at this point. I believe what Ms. Pritchard was asking for was support in front of the zoning hearing board, which would require a public motion to send to our office in support of me.
Which means it's
Which we
not
should
our
vote.
decision.
No, but we could.
Let's be clear. The decision,
It's a zoning hearing
it has
board.
to go to the zoning hearing board. That means it's not our decision. Our decision is whether or not to support their petition
for or
to
against
the
their
zoning
statement.
hearing board. Right. And I thought that would be a resolution, but it's not.
No, it's normally a motion.
A motion.
So the
Okay.
motion is send the solicitor in support of this project.
Okay,
Or not,
yeah,
whatever.
all right. And Mr. Bibble, you had one more question?
Yeah, Dibble.
Dibble, sorry.
It's okay. The question, I guess, is more to the council members than anybody, but we've been trying to get PennDOT to do things like introduce metered parking along Old York Road. We've had other requests about signaling Johnson Street or other streets up. Why at this point is PennDOT so willing to introduce signals for a private enterprise when public interest efforts to get PennDOT to do something that the community as a whole wants is ignored and rejected all the time? And I mean, it's a question more for you folks than anybody else, but why is it so easy for them to go get a signal when we can't get PennDOT to do anything that we want them to do on the road?
Let me address your concern, because actually I share your outrage at that question. So
you don't have to answer. It's more rhetorical than anything.
Well, no. I mean, there is actually a reason, and the reason is because there is already at that site a pedestrian-operated signal. And so what this company, this private industry, would be asking for is to change that signal from being pedestrian-operated to being a fully signalized.
And left-hand turns or, blocking Old York Road, which is always the concern before about the questions we had about turning into one lane each direction, and it in effect does that.
I can't speak for PennDOT, that is for sure.
But one of the
We can only say that we're delighted that if they can get a light in there, that's great. Right? We'd like to see things happen to slow down traffic on Old York Road. We wish we could get more of them.
But to turn left to get to Johnson Street from Old York Road will get you a ticket, as this gentleman so eloquently stated.
No.
Cut through.
That's not to cut
That's what I'm saying. To cut through, to use it as a public access way to Johnson Street would get you a ticket.
To use IHOP as a public access to Johnson Hut.
I understand, but you're putting a signal there. I mean, I want to actually also address the question about where the kids go to eat. I have a 15-year-old daughter. Okay, all of her friends go to IHOP, they go to Bella's, they go to the pizza joint on Old York Road. There's lots of places for them to eat. Okay, so I mean, you already know my views of this whole thing.
Okay, well, thank you very much for sharing them.
One of the things I did want to point out is Ms. Pritchard did say in her presentation, I believe the applicant agreed, that a condition to any of this approval will be that there's actually a permit and completion of this, of a traffic signal.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
so,
So, and it's my understanding that you haven't actually presented this.
No. As was stated, obviously, step one would be to get to zoning so that we could have a drive-through. Then we need to go to all those outside agencies, DEP, DOT, everybody, and then also before this board for land development. So, this is step -1 in the process to get the process started. And the time to get a PennDOT permit, and by the way, all of that is PennDOT. It's not us. They'll make those determinations whether I can have full movement, left in, left out. That's all PennDOT's determination, and we would be, we'd have to comply with whatever they come up with. But that's that's typically a year process in 9 out of 10, places that we do business. So PennDOT's not going to be a tomorrow thing. It's easily a year.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Councilor Golden.
Two quick things. One, Tim, you remember the struggle we had trying to get anything on York Road for PennDOT, and we finally, the best we could get was that pedestrian crossing. The idea here is that the increase in traffic would get us up to a signal, and if we don't get a signal, everyone knows that this isn't going to get our support, and it's not going to be an investment for them either. So that's a big part of it. The other thing that we're just we're struggling with is there appears to be no other feasible economic use of that building just because of the structure and how it is. Jeff, I think, has been trying to do it for how many years?
7 years. Yeah.
My wife's business is in Hellwood's Funeral Home, okay? The Art Partnership, it's a growing, thriving business. Yes, they're a lease tenant. They're doing quite well there, but they will have to relocate.
Well, if they were growing enough to...
Yeah, the problem is you can't support the rent, the debt service and the improvements to the property, and I guess is Leslie?
Leslie Watkins sold it to my wife and her.
Okay, I know Leslie and I love Leslie, but the problem with that property is it needs, to get it to code, to get it to ADA code, to get it to fire code, to get it, life and safety, and then try to put a tenant that will cover the taxes and cover the debt service and cover the improvements, you'll never get that rent. I mean, the Hellweeds are probably getting next to nothing. You would need to get $10,000 a month just at the first floor. I mean, it's insane. And unfortunate, because we love to rehab old buildings.
Are you the owner?
I'm not. I'm with Midgard Properties.
Okay.
Are there any other questions about this project? Okay, and I would love some advice here. My concern about voting, well, we could take a vote tonight to see if we want to support this, what is the name of your company? I'm sorry. I know your name, Di Pasqua.
Well, my company is Summerwood. Scott's company is the company that has the site under agreement, and we would be getting an assignment of that.
And so who would be petitioning the zoning hearing board?
So we would be, our entity that is the equitable owner.
Okay.
I think it's PB 495 LLC.
Okay.
I would just for the applicants
Yeah.
that address the property.
Do we want to, does council wish to support the applicant's petition to the zoning hearing board?
Question.
So,
When is there a hearing set?
So I have not filed as of yet for the zoning hearing board. Once we get, let me just say that we really think it's important for council's support to get this through, to make this project happen, because it's a use variance. So I want to say that first, that we really think it's important for council to support this project to make it happen. Secondly, we haven't filed the ZHB application. I was hoping to go the end of February, so we plan on doing that. I was hoping to do the next 2 weeks or something. So that's the next step.
Okay, another
To me, that
question?
implies, well, I'm just asking Sean and George, that implies that there would be another full council meeting prior to the zoning hearing board.
Yes.
And because of the importance factor, I would just like to discuss it more
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
before I made any kind of decision.
Okay. And did you have a?
I was going to say, I thought we should support it right now, but
Okay.
if people want to discuss it more.
Maybe George could answer this. When will be the deadline, would there be necessarily a deadline for a February zoning hearing if Ms. Fritcher say filed within a week or something like that?
If filed within a week, we could get it in February. The constraint is the advertisement. We have to post the property, advertise it twice in the newspaper. The constraint is more the advertisement to get the word out.
So from the time Ms. Fritches files an application or a client files an application, the zoning hearing board, of course, has 90 days of the hearing for the MPC. That being said, of course, they want to go much sooner than that, and they're spending more money for attorneys and various other things.
And I'm also cognizant that we have a full agenda, so I am concerned about having a lot of discussion. We did do some discussion of it at BZNR. Do you have other questions?
No, I didn't have other questions or concerns. I was just saying if we, that I wasn't at BZNR, I apologize for that. That if there was time to talk about it more, I would.
Yeah. I think we can take, another.
I don't mean
10 to 15 minutes.
talk about it right now. I was actually alluding to talking about it more in the future. But
I think what I was trying to allude to, Councilor Connors, Ms. Fritchers does get this in, and it's for in February. It's likely to be perhaps even before the next council meeting. That's why I was talking about the timing for George. That's what I was trying to allude to.
Okay.
Yeah.
How much would making a decision about supporting it for the zoning hearing board constrain any decisions that the council would make in the future?
It would not, it would take it out. We don't have a deciding factor. If we decide to support this, in front of the zoning
They
hearing
can still disagree
board,
with us.
they could still disagree with us. But we would have said, we think this is a good project.
And it carries a lot of weight.
Our other options are to oppose it, which, so we could say, no, we don't want this to come to our town. And then the third option is to do nothing, to just let them go.
Which is normally what happens, but you're getting this request from the applicant and take a position in support.
So I guess I would like to say that I see a great number of benefits to the borough from this project. I think that the street light, the signal is something we've wanted and been unable to accomplish with the lot essentially fallow. The tax benefit to the school and to the borough of having a property that for 7 years has been significantly underutilized is significant. The work on the streetscape, the work on the stormwater management, the opportunities for employment for kids are all attractive to me. And the aesthetic reaction to a Taco Bell in my town is mitigated by its location between an IHOP and a Dunkin' Donuts. If they wanted to put this, where Marzano is, I'd be stomping my foot and holding my breath until we agreed to say no. But it's not like we're dragging anything down between the IHOP and the Dunkin' Donuts. We're just getting a bunch of money and a bunch of work done on 611, to me. And we need to find additional revenue from businesses if we don't want to raise taxes on homeowners.
I think those are all valid reasons. My only concern, and I've expressed this before, is the impact on residents in terms of the hours and the hours of delivery. And I don't know what our locus of control is, and we can talk about what our locus of control is in terms of, maybe thinking about creatively about that impact. But for people who live on that block, I'm concerned about the how that impacts them directly. So I think that I agree with all of that you said. All of those are definitely absolute benefits to their arrival.
The zoning hearing board can place any reasonable condition they want on that. The matter of the fact is, you heard from the applicant, the applicant's attorney, that those late hours are part of their business model.
I get that.
So
that's why I'm not entirely, completely enthusiastic.
Yeah, we're just throwing that out there.
When this is heard by ZHB, notices go out to homes within a radius, right?
And those folks will have a chance to come.
Because I'm just hoping that some of them would be here tonight and speak up, and that didn't happen, so I just want to make sure that they definitely.
Unless they were following closely, they wouldn't have known.
Right, exactly, but they will know about ZHB.
Madam President, the thing I have a problem with is I do not really want to drive through as such in our town. I like everything they want to do. Right where Vice President Bonker, where they're putting it, it isn't anywhere near as much of a blight as it would be in some other places. But I still have a prejudice against drive-throughs. Don't like them. And that's why I really am inclined to be against it.
Thank you. And I'd like to ask a question about the drive-through aspect because I agree, and also I have to represent that the Planning Commission is vehemently opposed to this idea of a drive-through. So they were here earlier tonight and expressed that concern. And the question that I have for legal is, if our zoning hearing board were to say, okay, we'll grant this variance, how does that stand then for any future drive-throughs that might be presented to us?
So one of the, well, that's interesting. So the zoning approval only runs with the site, okay? And you could also put on the zoning hearing board, through me or through others or whoever, could also put a condition on that would be reasonable. This only pertains to this application and is not transferable if this fell through and whatever drive-through wanted to come through on the exact same site, that's fine. But as far as other sites in town, it's not binding at all. This, the zoning hearing board has to look at this site and this application in a vacuum. That being said, of course, if someone came in with another drive-through, they're like, hey, you gave it to Taco Bell.
Right.
So just,
Yeah.
but legally,
could
there's
say,
no, but legally, there's no binding
Okay.
precedent for that.
Okay. Oh, yes.
Just, if I heard you correctly,
Yeah.
Mr. Cook, I mean, the zoning hearing board has to have a hearing within 90 days.
Yes, going to file the application or else
So-
it's deemed approved.
So there's no constraint on us that a hearing could happen, would have to happen prior to our next meeting.
No.
I'm just wondering with the conversation going on, whether people want to have more conversation or whether they want to vote tonight. We could ask, if we ask you not to ask for the hearing, to be okay with no hearing until after our next meeting. You can still file, but a hearing would come after our next meeting. Would that be okay with you?
I mean, obviously, I think our concerns, we would like to understand, am I going to say absolutely no, that wouldn't be okay with us, but we would like to understand from you what other concerns you have, so that we don't come back in February and then we're not, ready for a hearing because, and this is not to sound, since November, we've been working up to today, I guess what I'm trying to say, and with the hope and part of the expectation that we would have council support for this project to go forward in February. So that's our hope for tonight. And if that's not what's going to happen, we need to understand just from a business perspective, how far we should, keep coming back to council before they kind of say, I don't know if it's going to happen. So.
Kira,
I was just going to say that there's someone else in the audience who'd like to comment. That's
Oh,
bringing it to your attention.
okay. Would you like to comment?
Hi, sure. Thank you. My name is
Name and address.
Katie Costandino, 418 Hillside Avenue. I regularly attend our school board meetings, and I'm just curious, after listening Monday night to the projected over $800,000 deficit we have for the school board budget for 2018-2019, 2 years in a row, a very large deficit they're staring down. And a big piece of that is the continuous deep depreciation of tax assessments. So if this project occurred, how quickly would that bump in tax revenue hit our school?
As soon as it got billed, it get reassessed.
So, from now to when that potentially, in the best case scenario, from now to when that, your best situation had this up and running, when would that
If
happen?
we were approved tonight, it'd still be 18 months before I'd be open.
So 18 months, which, you're talking about 2 years. I mean, the grand scheme of things, it wouldn't be, we're not talking 5 years.
PennDOT's a year alone, which is out of our control. We would love to be open quicker.
Right.
But that is a realistic timeframe, unfortunately.
What about the property sale?
So,
The
do you want to talk about the sales, Scott, because you're...
So the sale is contingent upon us getting all of the approvals we need, not just from local, but everything to open a Taco Bell. Without it, we drop the contract.
Right.
Because it doesn't have the value to us without.
But that
the-
transfer tax would be likely to be paid sooner.
Not until
Not
the,
if there's no
not until the closing. No, when we.
Right, but the closing would happen
Oh, yes.
before the 18 months
Sure.
development, construction, and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, typically our construction is 90 to 120 days or so, so there's 4 months there, but.
Okay.
Yeah, we would probably, if we could be open in 18 months, we're probably looking at closing in 14 months. After PennDOT, it's probably the last governing agency.
Got it.
Some administrative work, bonds and so forth, we'll close, and then it'll take them 4 months, 5 months, site work and building.
Okay, so it's sort of more about the long-term tax benefit, yes.
And in light of the continued conversations I witnessed, I've been attending their board meetings monthly for the past 2 years. There is no more short-term plugs to fix the situation that we're encountering. And if your school system in Jenkintown Borough starts to tank, we all go with it. Whether it's our homeowners, our business community, we all follow, because that's why a large influx, our school is growing because the young kids want to be here and their families want them to be here. So I would ask you to consider also the impact of our school community and what your decision, how that impacts the longevity of our school that we also value. Thank you.
Of course, thank you
Thank
very
you.
much, yeah. Kieran, did you want to make a comment?
I did. Admittedly, I'm a little conflicted about this project. The tax revenue, and we considered not just for the borough, but actually a larger portion of that would go to the school district, and that's something that is a huge, factor for us. The land improvements, are really important. I haven't received tremendous community support when I've discussed this. I think I'd love an opportunity to have the community have some time to come to a meeting and more broadly see your designs and have an opportunity to give us some feedback that would help me know whether, I know this will benefit the town in many ways. I need to hear some more people agree to that. And also specifically folks who will be impacted, because their properties are adjoining this development. I'd really like to hear what they think about that. So I would value, I understand your time constraints, and if I were in your shoes, I'd want to move this along as well. If I'm in my shoes, I just want to hear a little bit more of what my neighbors think about it.
Again, there will be time at the zoning hearing board for that kind of comment, but I understand that what you're asking for is making up your own mind after hearing. Yeah. Unfortunately, there may not be time for that kind of a public hearing. Mr. Dibble?
No, sorry. I checked the website and the agenda for this meeting wasn't published 3 days ago. So I didn't know it was going to be on the agenda. And so I second your concern about the public being aware of it. I am sure that there are plenty of residents who support this. I would like to get an estimate of if it shifts from $390,000 valuation to say $800,000, what's the difference per year in tax base that would increase for the borough and for the school?
I think either way it's going to be a positive.
Excuse
So
me?
I think to your point that either way it's going to be beneficial.
It's going to increase, there's no
right.
doubt it will increase the revenue,
Right.
so I couldn't agree more.
Is there more discussion from council members?
Just one, again, the streetscape improvement goes from Johnson to Hillside?
No, up here to the end of the twin. So the whole frontage of the property that Scott is purchasing.
Thank you.
If I may,
It would be nice if it went down to Hillside.
Yeah.
That would be.
can someone explain the downside? I mean, honestly, I'm puzzled. It's like an eyesore, empty lot, doing nothing for us. And I don't know what the problem is with the drive-through. You know, if you got a couple kids in the car, or your dog in the car, or you're mobility impaired, a drive-through is a really welcome thing. I don't know how it's against the interests of the residents of Jenkintown to have it. I just don't get it. Again, between a Dunkin' Donuts and an IHOP, it doesn't feel out of place to me. I don't understand the downside. What's the concern? If so, could someone, I'm really not trying to be confrontational. I just
No, I'm not, no, in all
Let me
honesty,
just
I
call
don't,
up, you,
I
go
don't
ahead, yeah.
really, I'm not concerned, but I think it's a huge decision. To just go with it. I mean, this moment for me.
I guess it's the third time I've seen the presentation. It doesn't seem sudden.
Well,
to me,
yeah,
so.
yeah, all right.
Kieran, do you want to express?
Well, I was just gonna say, I like old buildings. I was the first when I first met you, I was like, wait, you're tearing it down? I thought you were putting the Taco Bell in Hellwig's, which is weird, but like I still was a little bit more behind it then. There seems to be some alternate use options. If there's businesses running out of there now or have recently been run out of there, that's an alternate use that I'd like to think about a little bit more. Certainly not, it's not something that's gonna bring in the revenue that a Taco Bell will. But all that revenue is a ton of, more traffic that's milling around. And I know it's not creating new traffic, it's just recirculating the traffic that already exists. There's a lot of traffic already on Old York Road, and I do think some people will be coming, specifically for Taco Bell. And I have concerns about the traffic. I like the old building. I'm not quite there.
As a resident of Ward 1 and having not had a chance yet to really make my rounds, not knowing where we were on this, I do think that it's that people who feel like this is their first time hearing about it, for people who live right there, there's a validity to what might be a discomfort. They may very well take your position. They may very well say, there are so many reasons why this is a good thing for us as a whole, but I'm just reluctant to make the decision on that without having heard from very many. That's really the extent of my reasons. I think that the other things are probably things that maybe we can work out. I don't personally entirely have a strong reluctance to have the drive-through. That doesn't it's in a corridor that's a similar kind of businesses. It's just that. I think that we've said that we wanted to pride ourselves as a council on transparency and being available and being open about things. And before saying we're going to vote on it, and those residents haven't had a chance before that we're in agreement with it, that's my only reluctance. I mean, would it be the first time? Is it horrible? I'm just a little bit reluctant. That's it. That's my
I'll just make one comment. I mean, the mayor one time.
Go ahead.
So the Ben Trescott who did, go ahead.
Okay, I just want to get around the circle and then we'll take your comment.
Well, a couple of things. We're not making the decision, so we're going to put our support behind it if we choose to do so, and zoning will make that decision. I do agree that it will slow the traffic on Old York Road. I really think it could be a benefit on Old York Road. I think it's a place for our kids to go, another place for our kids to go, probably from my children's perspective, the preferred place to go. And the tax benefit, as Katie has pointed out, and she has been at every school board meeting, I mean, that's a huge thing for us. It's huge for us, for the school district. So I would put my support behind this.
And I just want to reiterate that everyone here is always considering the school and how it's going to be funded.
If I can start, I'm really happy to see you because we moved the day of the week to have council meetings so people who go to school board meetings can make it. And it's really gratifying to see that work. So thanks for being here.
And I just wanted to address, I mean, I'll state that I have really been on the fence about this because, I don't want our town to be a fast food, hub. And what I heard with regard to the business model of the existing Hellwig's building and its tenants is that it's not sustainable. And the owners had actually come to us, I don't know what, was it like 2 years ago, and said, we're going to sell this building because we can't keep this building. So whether it's a Taco Bell or the next thing that comes down the pike, that property is going to be developed. And we've already heard from a developer that it's not a property that can be rehabbed and put out there on the market in a sustainable business model. There was, Cal, you wanted to speak.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Just one comment. I have a question about the internal circulation of the site. I haven't seen any data on the information, and eventually maybe it will come around. But because you're going to zone it, I think council should know how the fact that the exit from the drive-through is so close to the traffic signal.
Yep.
Did you look into what's that going to do to the queuing through a drive-through? Because 611 is a major road. If that traffic intersection has 30 seconds of red, green light time, whatever it is, I know the drive-through is going to have the least amount of that. So by the time the light changes, how is that going to affect the drive-through? Traffic is going to be backed up. Every so often, one car leaves, and then before you know it, you have traffic jam in the parking lot.
Well,
and maybe it spills out.
That's where you're picking up, right? So that's the last car picking up right there. So you've got, 1, 2, 3, at least, that can sit here on the way out, if it's stacking up, right? This is the window where you're going to pick up your food right there.
That would be something I'm pretty sure that PennDOT would want to look at to make a final determination whether or not your site or the intersection, the condition warrants a traffic signal. But that's going to be a huge factor, because if queuing does happen, then it's going to be a good lock on the site, because it's a small site. And were you ever involved in a Taco Bell that has a drive-through exit at the light? I've never seen one.
This situation where the signal's here and our exit is there? Yeah.
Oxford Ave, I think Oxford Ave, the exit.
Common Avenue in
Yeah.
Oxford.
Yeah.
Yeah, there. Wendy's. Yeah, I think that exists in a lot of places.
Probably not the most ideal, maybe it's different site, this is a small site.
Yes, it is.
You had mentioned before also possible trip to DEP. I don't think you're an acre. Are you an acre?
We are, well, you're for MPDS, we may or may not be, need the MPDS permit, yeah.
That would be the concern that I have from a drive-through standpoint. Queuing is a possible issue, so you would want to see data. How does it negatively?
And obviously, that's all part of land development, which all,
We're less than one right now.
Yes and no, because you do need to provide the information if you're going to design it for drive-through. You need
True. At the ZHB, yeah.
Right, okay, Mr. Hummel.
I think that's a great comment. And in all of our development processes, whether it's NJDOT or PADOT, they do look at the queuing, the stacking from the traffic light to the curb cut to make sure that there's proper movement and gaps. We have a hurdle with PennDOT, but it's a condition of hopefully if you support us. So we have to pass that hurdle. But you're correct in every way. We have to do our traffic studies and everything else, our queuing studies, to make sure that we have a gap, or PennDOT would not allow that. They do not want queuing to back up from another light to our curb cut, or for us to queue back out into any road. So you are 100% correct, and we will have that hurdle. But again, that would be a condition. We'd have to pass that. We have to get through that. To obtain our full and final approvals from the board.
Thank you. Do I hear a motion? I feel,
Can I just ask a quick
absolutely,
question?
yes. Ask you to stay, so we'd love to hear you.
Yes. Does this business model just fail if there's no drive-through? You say it's 60% of your business, but that doesn't mean if you don't have it, you lose 60%, you might lose.
Yeah,
30%.
we're a drive-through, we're a QSR, we're a quick service restaurant. That's really the model. Without the drive-through, it's a completely different.
It doesn't start.
Yeah,
They won't come.
Right.
Well, that's
it's a completely different.
That was my question.
Yeah.
You answered it. So.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry, I just wanted to make one more comment in regards to the budget that the school is developing right now. And I don't know how much information passed from Monday's meeting to your council, but right now it's a 2.4% tax increase, and they are looking at applying for exceptions to go past the index again. And I hope that you all consider that. Thank you.
Thank you. So what I'm looking for is either a motion to support this application, or a motion to oppose this application, or a motion to not do anything with regard to this application. And that does not mean that at the February meeting, we could, after having talked to constituents, we might come back with another proposal to do any one of those things.
I would rather you, I mean, we don't want to wait till February, but I would rather you not take a vote to, not support it and think we're coming back, because I think logistically that gets hairy. So we don't want to come back in February, but we really want council support in this project. I'm not saying we would come back past February, to be honest with you, but we really, not saying we wouldn't, but we want to make a decision on this project for Jenkintown.
Or you lost me a little bit, so you said you would not come back in February?
We will come back. I just want to make sure that February, we don't want to keep coming back in March, April, May. That's our concern. That's why I'm saying that.
And I actually was
before.
not even anticipating that you would come back in February.
Okay, good, good.
What I was saying was that should council vote essentially to table or to not take a stance.
Right.
Because what I've heard from people on council is that they would like an opportunity to talk to their constituents.
Okay.
Which they haven't had. We've got the information, we've heard all the presentations.
Right.
I feel like we have had a lot of questions answered. It might be that someone would move to support. Yeah. So we could take no stance tonight, is what I'm saying.
Okay.
Right.
I would like to move that we support
Okay.
the project.
Can I just add that, just after hearing everything I've heard, since my original comment, where I said I'd like to hear more, when I said that, I was leaning towards support,
So
There's a motion.
Is that a second?
I wasn't making a motion.
Okay, hold on, Jay. That's in the comment period.
The opportunity is after the second.
Admin and finance moves to support.
Thank you.
You can find a second.
I second. Thank you. Okay, now your comment is pertinent.
Okay, right, I just wanted to be clear with everything, because I didn't feel I was clear.
No, I understand. Are there any other comments? We have a motion on the floor to support and a second. Yes.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that, Jay, because my concern was more for people who feel comfortable with this. Some of us have had more opportunity to study it and ask questions, and I can tell you that the first time I came in to talk with the developer about this, I was adamantly opposed before I even sat down. And I walked out of that meeting saying this might be a good idea, and then after learning more, I'm not crazy about having a Taco Bell, and I'd be damned if I would let anybody else have a drive-through if it hadn't been explained to me how shielded this is and everything else. But I think it's going to be an improvement to the borough, and as Katie said, I think it's going to get us some more redevelopment as well as tax revenue for the school district.
Are there any other questions or comments?
I think that, I was with Kieran, the shock to me tonight was that it's not going in, I don't know why I thought it was going in that building, but that's what I thought. So that's been the big shock to me tonight, and seeing that it's just gonna look like it kind of fell out of the sky. And so I understand the taxes, but that's kind of been my whole hesitation about this, and the neighbors not really having any aware that this is going on. But I'm okay. But I wanna keep an eye on the design.
And I'll just state for myself that what has really made me feel like this is a positive step is the tax revenue and the tremendous change that it will create on York Road, having a actual signal there.
We'll make another comment.
Okay.
I think with my background, a lot of people come in and say what kind of green businesses they want, and those are delightful. But what's going to come in and what's going to make money, and it's a space that's not bringing in revenue now. And I think people like to say, I watch PBS, but they watch Worldwide Festival.
There's a reason 65% of the businesses in the drive-thru.
Is drive-thru, right? Okay.
Yeah, no, I wish we could have a bookstore that would thrive in the old building, but that's not what's being offered.
One more comment, yeah.
Basically, hearing which I did not know, the desperation of the school board, even though I hate, and I will state that I dislike in extreme fast food and drive-throughs, also, I would support it for the school.
I'm with Chuck. I love change. So that goes beyond, I want to keep Jenkintown weird and unique and have character. However, you put it very well between the Dunkin' Donuts and IHOP. I don't have a lot of moral ground there. So we need the money. And the only reason I'm comfortable tonight with supporting it is knowing that at VHB, all of the surrounding neighbors will get their chance and they will make the ultimate decision.
And it will be our job to talk to them and make sure that they know that it's happening and that they are encouraged to come in and be a part of that conversation.
All right, there's a motion on the floor and a second to support this application. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, the record showing unanimous vote.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you all for your
Appreciate it.
patience. I know that was a long presentation, but very important.
There's like 3 or 4 really cool, very old looking, antique looking gas lamps out front of that building. I don't know if anyone knows the history on them or if they are.
Maybe he's in your house. He wants it for his house.
They're really cool.
You can find a way to do something with them in the borough.
So Mr. Hummel, let's talk.
You're gonna see them on my building, Hillside and Old York Road, on the entrance that's on Hillside. Before we would do any demolition, and again, safety's a concern, and we have things we have to do to get permits for demolitions. But we will not be disposing of anything that looks like it's got. I love stone. I love historical things also. Trust me, that stuff's not gonna just go in a dumpster.
Okay, because I started taking a better look at it the past couple weeks, and I saw them. I'm like, wow, it was very historic.
I approve of all that. All right, thank you all very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. We're going to spin through committee reports.
All right.
All right, and I just want to note that it slipped my eye and 4 other people, but like a lot of these names are incorrect. So if you're looking at the agenda, the names are going to be different. So Vice President Bunker, Admin Finance.
There is a report in the folder, and we have 3 items on the agenda, which comprise most of what's in the report in the folder. I can answer any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Admin Finance? All right. Building, zoning, and revitalization is Councilor Farrell.
Yes, your minutes from our January 17th meeting are in your folder. I'll highlight a couple of things. We have a new building inspector who's just come on board and is getting up to speed. Additionally, I wanted to highlight 2 sort of long challenged property maintenance issues that have made significant progress in the past month. So I just want to take a minute and thank our borough staff for their diligence in keeping up good communications and problem solving with those homeowners so we got a satisfactory result of those property maintenance issues. And last, I wanted to highlight that upon request, the borough will be mailing out the new residential use and occupancy requirements. Those will be going out with the code. And the idea of that is to help the process for residents and additionally, we're communicating quite a bit with real estate agents in the town so that everybody is aware of the changes, the reasons why we've made the changes, and to help them work through that process. That's it.
Thank you. And I would like to celebrate that the dumpster on Walnut Street is gone.
Our traffic calming measure is gone.
The porta potty gone though? The porta potty's still there. That'll be next. Okay, public safety. Are any other questions or comments for building, zoning, revitalization? Okay, public safety. Councilor Whitney.
Yes, Madam President, the packet, the minutes are in your packet. The main order of business last month with the public safety meeting was the issues with Pioneer Fire Company. We had some discussions, I think. and I want to answer any other questions that people may have.
Okay. Any questions? Yes, go ahead.
Question, comment. Council Whitney, last month's meeting, we discussed what to do with those ill-conceived and not requested crosswalks on Old York Road. They're crosswalks that were deemed not safe at one point and then inexplicably put in by PennDOT anyway. And around dusk last week, I watched a woman cross at Homestead and Old York Road with her little dog.
Oh my
and almost
gosh.
got hit.
Oh my
You can see the
gosh.
reflector of the leash, but not the woman.
Yeah.
I reiterate that we need to press PennDOT to remove those curb cuts and crosswalks as soon as possible. They're a true public safety concern.
I thought we had discussed actually obstructing them in some way that people couldn't use them.
The one at Summit, I think, we were
We
talking
discussed
about.
Homestead.
We said, did we say Homestead too?
We talked specifically about Summit, but we didn't address Homestead. I think we really need to look at some short-term measures to safeguard those.
So what I'd like to propose is that we ask our Public Works Department and Engineering and the manager to figure out how we might be able to put something there that would actively discourage pedestrians from crossing.
We just continually pester PennDOT to get out there and fix that kind of big problem. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions for public safety? Public Works, Councilor Coniff.
Thank you. The minutes, we're going to receive the minutes. I have one item on the agenda. There's two things to highlight regarding the 2018 paving project. The project specs have been completed and they're being sent to PennDOT for approval. In fact, I think they might already happen. So the 2018 paving project is underway. It won't actually be underway for August, but we're working on it. And we're set to receive the dump truck, the replacement of dump truck 27. I believe that delivery is set for February.
Yeah. We should have a christening.
Yes. Probably get a blizzard like the day before. Oh, and that's all I have. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions, comments? All right, thank you. Jenkintown School District, Councilor McLaughlin.
Just to reiterate that just our awareness of the budget constraints that the school district is facing and our sympathy and our efforts to try to be mindful of that in everything that we do, despite the complications that making actions in that direction may cause our community. We know that our issues are real and that we want to do our part to make sure that we are trying to generate revenue. Dr. Takis was really happy to hear that we had moved the meeting date to Wednesdays. She was very supportive of that. In fact, she expressed some gratitude towards it. So we'll meet again at the end of the month and touch bases on how we can continue to further address the school district's needs. And I will also inform her of our move with Taco Bell, just so she's in the loop.
May I add
Yes.
one thing? Just that in addition to our support for the Taco Bell, very significantly, we have a big project underway to move this operation and the Public Works parking lot out of the center of the commercial district. So we're not using up prime commercial district real estate for parking salt trucks and dump trucks, which would also turn this all back into tax generating real estate.
And just to add to that, as part of that, we're creating a development, not just vacating the area. We're going to trade it for something real. That's the goal. With
Absolutely.
substantial taxes for this.
The school will get, well, what percentage of the taxes do we end up getting? A fourth?
No, almost 10. Almost 10.
Almost 10%.
Yeah.
So
Real estate tax?
Yeah.
Yes, sir, 10%.
Okay, so the school gets 90%. So,
The county's in there.
oh, and the county as well, yeah.
So that's it.
Yes, great, thank you very much. Jenkintown Community Alliance, Councilor Farrell.
I have no report this month.
Multi-municipal group, Councilor Golden.
Very quickly, just a reminder about the Delaware Valley Regional Planning Commission Strategies for Older Suburbs event in March. I'll send out another link for everybody. Designed for officials and staff in particular. So it will be useful. And I will also send out a link to the Pennsylvania Municipal League so that everyone can fill out their pieces and get information in which they are interested in. So get linked up, each and every member.
Thank you. 2035 comprehensive plan, I have no report on that right now. We are still in the period of time when that is being reviewed by surrounding neighborhoods and people at the county. Okay, engineers report. Mr. Hassan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A copy of my report should be in your package tonight, just a couple of matters to highlight. At the last Public Works, Public Safety meeting, the board had a question or requested information on what it would take to construct a second speed hump on Cedar Avenue. Since that meeting, we have taken a look at it. This is on Cedar Avenue between Washington and Harper. This location appears to pass the criteria identified in PennDOT Traffic Common Handbook, Application 383. And therefore, that location is adequate for a second speed hump. I can coordinate with the borough manager on the next step, if council so wishes, and take it from there.
Thank you.
The second matter, or second update that I have, the small water grant application is ready for submission. I believe there's a resolution before council tonight for the approval, and we are ready to move forward with that. I answer any questions you may have.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Solicitor Kilkenny.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Our office has worked with Mr. Locke and his staff on several matters related to right to know, the agreement before council with the Montgomery County Redevelopment Authority, and obviously issues surrounding the Taco Bell. And that basically concludes the crux of my report, and want to know if council has any questions.
Our mayor, as I said, needed to absent herself this evening. Police chief's report.
Madam President, my reports are in your Dropbox. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer.
Anybody have any questions for the chief? All right, thank you. Public Works Department, Mr. Riggins.
Good evening, everybody. My report in your Dropbox and in your packets. Couple things to highlight. Over this last 2 months, November, December, Public Works has completed leaf season. We also have, with the assistance of Jeff Orkin and Kevin Lynch, solved the problem with the holiday lights shorting out. We put timers in town square, so the lights only be on at night instead of burning all day. So that should preserve a lot of our lights. Other than that, if you have any questions for any, oh yeah, we have a new part of the fleet too for the salt and snow. We have actually have a spreader on the back of the 250 for the parking lots and smaller streets to get through town, which will allow with our snow operation, snow maintenance. But if you have any other questions or concerns, I'll have any.
You guys have been doing a great job this winter. Thank you.
Thank you, I appreciate it. I'll relate to you guys.
Anyone else? Any questions? Okay. Manager's report, extensive report in our packets.
Madam President, as you stated, my report is in your packets. I will highlight a couple things. Because it's the end of the year, we're preparing for our annual audit. They're in February 5th.
Yes.
February 5th, the accountant has been preparing for a good month, putting the paperwork together. And, hopefully we'll come through that shining like we did last year. Most of my work right now is centered on the grants. We have a lot of them running concurrently. I'm a little under the weather, I'm sorry.
Yeah, thank you for being here.
Thank you. We have the Green Light Go, which was a school warning project. That's 100% complete now. We are starting the closeout period of the paperwork, which is a daunting task with these grants. But that project was completed. The playground rehabilitation grant that we got from the DCNR, we're finally making headway on that. We've completed the accessible path. We had to renew the lease because it now has to include the accessible path. It's just a lot of paperwork. We're coming around. We have the equipment picked out. The school approved the equipment, and Councilor Farrell worked with the vice principal.
Principal of the elementary school, who's actually no longer there, so I should actually circle back to the new interim principal to make sure she is in communication about the project. So like, remind me about that.
It'll be a climbing wall instead of the drop zone that the project started out with. There was some safety concerns and maintenance concerns. The climbing wall was very well received, and the school was happy about that. The small water grant that Mr. Hassan referred to is going well over on the east side of town. They did run into a couple small problems that aren't foreseen, but they weren't overly expensive, and it's within the constraints of the grant. It's still covered, everything's covered. The grant that's on before you tonight is also a small water grant. That work would be performed in 2019, and it's for the drainage basin that takes our sewage to the West Avenue, they call it meter, and then on to Cheltenham. So this is what we're repairing now is what goes to the Runnymede meter and then to Cheltenham. I'll stop there. Unless anybody has any questions.
Are there any questions or anything? Well, we appreciate all the many things that you discussed.
Thank you.
All right, now we'll move to the order of business. First item, Vice President Bunker.
Thank you. Madam President, I make a motion to approve the redevelopment authority agreement between the Borough of Jenkintown and the redevelopment authority of the County of Montgomery, as it is the borough's intent to convey the property located at 700 Summit Avenue here to the redevelopment authority, and for the redevelopment authority to assist the borough with the redevelopment of the property in accordance with redevelopment law and redevelopment corporation law.
Second.
There's a motion on the floor and a second, and now we have time for some questions, and I guess it's at this point.
Let me,
Go ahead.
first of all, our office reviewed this agreement. This is a standard agreement the redevelopment authority enters into with municipalities. I just want to be clear from the Jenkintown perspective. Although we may, at some time, the borough may choose to convey the land to the redevelopment authority, it is ultimately the borough council's decision if they want to move forward on a project or not. So what this agreement really does is set the parameters for the relationship between council and the redevelopment authority, also knowing how the redevelopment authority and professionals will be compensated. Essentially, they will be billed and Jenkintown will pay for it. But the redevelopment authority will not move forward on anything without the consent of borough council. And I know the solicitor for the RDA is here, Ms. Bridges, and perhaps she could expand upon that.
Thank you.
Sure. Good to see you again. So as your solicitor said, we do everything, or the RDA does everything at council's behest. So we're involved to the extent you want us to be involved. After you approve this, if you approve this agreement tonight, there's a few options. I know that you put out our RFIs, and you can either make a decision on those RFIs yourself, you can choose a developer, and then we would then enter into agreement with developer with council as a third party, outlining everybody's agreements. We would negotiate spending. RDA would negotiate with the developer regarding the specific terms of that agreement, but no terms are agreed to unless council agrees to all of those terms. So that's option one. Option two is if you would like the RDA to review the proposals that you have gotten, and they will write up what their thoughts are regarding taxes, regarding the property, all that kind of thing, and give you a recommendation on what they think is the best option for redevelopment of those parcels. And then council would have to, they would say, we think this proposal is best, and the council would have to accept or reject that proposal.
So just two options?
There's two options. Third option is to put out another RFP, which I don't think you're going to do. Right. Figure out the RFP, but I don't think you would do that.
Option one is the more preferred.
And we don't have to
I think
make a
that's what
motion
council
right
wants.
now.
No, right.
Right, exactly.
Just wanted Allison to be hassled a little bit.
Well, we can tell her we're making sure we're not paying you for that time.
That's, you did, okay. I guess technically before the agreement, so.
Okay. Are there any other questions? All right. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. The motion show, or the record show, a unanimous vote. Now we have the Park Mobile Agreement. Vice President Bunker.
All right, so to refresh everybody's memory, this is to be able to pay your parking with your phone.
Yay.
Madam President, I make a motion to enter into agreement with Park Mobile to allow for the payment of parking within the borough of Jenkintown to be able to be accessed remotely through Park Mobile.
Second. All right. Any questions or comments?
Can you just talk about, do you know what you know about the fee structure? How does
The
that work?
person using it has to pay, not the borough.
Okay.
That was, and after they said that, I didn't listen anymore. No,
You can stop talking.
as long as we're not paying for it. No, it's like 20 cents or something?
I don't recall the number, I apologize.
40?
Yeah, I was gonna say it's 40.
40 cents. So you have to pay them, you can still just put quarters in the machine if you want to, or your credit card in the machine. But if you want to do it on your phone, you have to pay them.
Sounds good.
It'll send you a text message when it's going to run out and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So there's
They have them all in
many
PC,
features.
great.
Yeah, they came back to Philly too.
I think it tells you when a spot becomes available.
We all love it.
Yeah.
I know, they are great.
Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Let the record show a unanimous vote. All right, Vice President Bunker, item 3.
All right, save the best for last. I make a motion to advertise an RFP to lending institutions in regards to borrowing to fund the sanitary sewer interceptor A repairs taking place.
Second.
All right, any questions or comments? All right, all those in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Let the record show unanimous vote. Councilor Connors, small water grant.
I make a motion to approve resolution 2018-5, applying for the PA Small Water and Sewer Program grant not to exceed $390,786 from the Commonwealth Financing Authority to be used for repairs to Jenkintown sewer system. Per the PA Small Water Grant, the borough is required to place a 15% match not to exceed $68,962.
Second.
Great. Any questions about this one? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, let the record show a unanimous vote. And Councilor Whitney, you have a motion to put forward, or am I looking at an older agenda? I am looking at it. Nope, I'm sorry. It's me. I'm looking at it older. Okay, I move to approve Resolution 2018-6, which recognizes the February 1st, 2018 as the 50th anniversary of the loss of lives which sparked the 1968 Memphis sanitation workers strike. Borough Council calls on our community to participate in a National Minute of Recognition at 4:20 p.m. on that date to remember the event and its significance. And this was also the event that precipitated Martin Luther King's going to Memphis, and it's the same year as his death, his assassination. Second. Are there any questions or comments?
Thank you for putting this.
Yeah. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, let the record show unanimous. All right, do we have any new business or discussion?
Just real quick.
Yes.
I think it's important that the public knows about the issue at SEPTA, in which during the travel to the Women's March, there was a SEPTA, I'm not sure employee or contractor, whoever, he was sitting in the ticket office. He had a lovely sign about making America great again, and he had a little bust of what appears to be a giant bullet in front of all of our residents and neighbors going down to that march. Christian was able to contact one of our commissioners, Ken Lawrence, who is a member of the SEPTA board in Montgomery County, and he made it disappear. But it is important to know that that happened, and if anyone wants a picture, just let me know and I can get you a photo of it.
Thank you for that report. Any other new business?
Madam President, we do, I think Vice President Bunker and I have had a discussion with a lot of folks regarding the situation with the Pioneer Fire Company. You'll pardon my voice. As I think all of us know, the Pioneer Fire Company has not made one iota of a step toward actually upgrading their training to where it needs to be. As far as we know, no one is in compliance in that house with what they're supposed to have. Am I overstating?
None of the officers. None of the officers are. That's right.
So the fact is we have some measures that we've talked about that we need to take, basically to tell these folks that they either need to get in compliance or there will be more action. Mr. Bunker, if you wouldn't mind, I seem to be losing my voice.
Sorry. So we've asked them to stop spending out of the fire chief's budget except for life safety equipment. And we've made it clear that until there's progress towards bringing the officers in compliance with borough training standards, that they're not to be in charge at the scene of a fire. Those are the two most important actions that we've taken. There was a third. Thank you very much. I can never remember anything. And that officers who hadn't met the training standards couldn't be borough fire chief. Okay. And I'll say, and this is a conversation that Chuck and Kieran and I, who are the fire commission members from council, that none of us are enthusiastic about being negative towards people who volunteer their time to run into our houses when they're on fire and save us and save our property. But we have a situation where the officers are not in compliance with our own standards, which are adopted from state standards, creating a situation of potential grave liability for the borough should something go wrong at a fire. And the officers are not trained in accordance with accepted standards. And so we are looking just for progress towards a plan and progress towards that plan to get the officers of the company up to snuff in terms of training certification.
Madam President, yes. I know I was, I believe, asked by you as far as my legal advice on this motion. And I don't pretend to be an expert on fire, and I echo exactly what Councilor Bunker said. In fact, as you know, I live in Jenkintown, so I appreciate all the emergency responders here that service my own home. So what I did is I reached out to Mr. Genoway. Mr. Genoway is basically the one who wrote the report, the audit report for us. He's also president of the Upper Merion Fire Company and also chair of the Board of Supervisors of Upper Merion Township, where my firm does legal work as well, and I have a relationship with him. And I asked him, I said, here's this motion. What do you think? One, as a fire professional, a person that does these evaluations statewide, is contracted by the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, Montgomery, and Chester County. Two, as chair of the Board of Supervisors of a large township, what do you think of this? And he said to me that other townships that he's well aware of have passed similar measures, and that he would think, as speaking in his Board of Supervisors role, if we do not do something like this, meaning Jenkintown Council, we're opening ourselves up to substantial liability.
Okay. Thank you for looking into that.
And if I may say also, Madam President, the officers of Pioneer do not, and the membership does not appear inclined to do anything different. That's the real, to me, that is the crux of the problem. They're not trying to fix it because they don't believe there's a problem.
And I believe that my question had been, are members of Pioneer aware that council has to take these steps? And I believe you told me.
It was discussed at the last fire commission meeting.
Okay, with the leadership.
In detail with the leadership of both fire companies.
Okay.
So my question is, I know we've had these conversations with leadership of Pioneer. I'm really curious whether all the members of Pioneer are aware of this, and they have not been aware of some of the leadership's responses to us. So I want everyone to understand the consequences of what they're doing.
The problem with that is if you keep trying to communicate with people who have appointed officers, the officers are there to act for them. And if they're going to be that way, I don't know how we would even get a forum with the members of Pioneer, truthfully. And I'm doing this extremely reluctantly because I know a lot of the Pioneer people and I like them.
I want to say again, the years of experience that they have, frankly, doesn't leave me concerned specifically that they're not going to be effective fighting a fire. Right? I don't think they're not capable. I think they're not documented and certified in a way that protects us, lawyers, after something goes wrong and someone's hurt or killed.
And for that
And
matter,
protects the borough citizenry, that means, because a lot of money can be awarded.
and also I must say, we don't know that they're really certified, if they really are capable though, in the most modern sense. When those people originally received their training, that was a long time ago. The technology has changed. And right now, I can't tell you that the Pioneer people really could fight a fire of certain kinds anyway. Hazardous substances, things like that, that's new relatively. And that's a problem.
Councilor Goldman, then Peter.
It's something of a disadvantage. I mean, I've talked with you all about this, so I have some background, but we seem to be discussing a motion that we don't have in front of us. So I'm not exactly sure what we're discussing, where the issues of authority lay.
It's unclear that there, I don't think there's a motion, we're just kind of telling, it's sort of a report from the fire commission. And maybe that's an agenda item we should add on, is that the fire commission reports back.
In other words, you have our full support to do what you need to do, I guess.
I can't remember, I know we talked about this last time at length. Was there an end date we kind of had?
Well, we had talked about an 18-month plan, but 6 months went by into that 18 months with no progress, and that's when we got
But from
to
making this statement of not using the funds, do we have it, like, what's the next, like, checkpoint, I guess? Do we have a next?
What they've told us is that it takes, in the last meeting, there was an insertion, it takes at least 6 weeks to schedule things, stuff like that. The bottom line is that they haven't done anything by April. I think we have to make the next, and it's a hard decision because then we have some calls to make. So that's where we really are.
And so at this point, just to restate, where we are is that we are putting limits on the authority that Pioneer Fire officers have on the fire grounds.
That's correct.
That the budget, the Pioneer Fire Chief's budget will be frozen except for life safety equipment. And the officers who are not in compliance with training standards cannot be borough fire chief. And I think that's we've already taken the step of appointing a fire chief for that new chief. So, all right, I think that, thank you very much for persevering with all of that and for watching out for it's sort of the fiscal responsibility of the borough council to oversee these matters. As well as, wanting our firefighters to be adequately trained, both for their own safety and for the public safety.
If I may remark, Madam President, it's equivalent to punching Jell-O. They keep moving.
Thanks for that image. Are there any other matters that need to come before council? I move that we adjourn to executive session, recess to executive session and discuss real estate, after which time we will reconvene. And if there are any matters to come forward, do so at that time. Chief?
Oh, twice.
Oh, okay, I thought you had.